Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, he's in room here, so you're right out there. It's like. So introduce Mike Thomas. We'll go around and the directors introduce themselves and their departments, and then we'll get started. I'll give it a second. Where does it We'll just freeze the ice in a few minutes. It's all good. What can I do? Who wants to start?
I'll start. I'm Renee McMahon. I'm the Human Resources Director. Nice to meet you.
Hi, again, Becky Doctors.
Nice to meet you.
Chris Brink, City's Community Development Director.
Troy Sampson, City Facilities.
Met yesterday. Nice to see you again.
John Campbell, Fire Chief.
Okay. Right.
Ryan Whelan, Public Works. Nice to see you again.
Hello again.
David Knopke, Transportation Systems.
Sheila Danielson, Finance Director.
Hello.
Brooke Huddy, good to see you again.
See you too. So I'm Mike Thomas. So I don't know, where do we begin? Where would you like to start?
So we have a few questions. I think you those already. Yep.
Yeah.
And we've rehearsed, so we know what our parts are. I will start.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yes. So what is your experience advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion? And how would you train leadership on the role they can play in advancing these initiatives?
It's a good question. And I was thinking about this from outside. So my community in Amity is by US Census statistical data is overwhelmingly like 90%ish, 95%ish white Caucasian, and I say that like non-Latino, and then the remaining is a mix of predominantly Latino and a little bit African American. So our diversity, equity, inclusion is kind of skewed in the sense that we don't have a lot of a vibrant, diverse community to reach out to. But where I think we have a lot of wins is that we have an overwhelmingly female city staff, as well as 5 out of 7 council positions, which includes our mayor, are all women. So I think that sets a very good tone and presentation of diversity, equity, inclusion in the community. That we have so many women that are skilled, capable, and powerful and competent doing the jobs in all the different positions. So I think that is it's a good projection out to the community. And then specifically something we've done to advance diversity, equity, inclusion in our community was during the depths of the COVID pandemic. We started simply because we had a request from somebody that we weren't putting out any information that was in Spanish. So we started posting as much information as we could in flyers and documents and CDC information and that sort of documentation in Spanish for our Latinx community in the community. And predominantly those are agricultural workers, migrant agricultural workers. So we were ensuring that those folks had the opportunity to get that information necessary to get through the depths of the COVID pandemic. Additionally, something we specifically did is we had a local nonprofit called Unidos that came to us to ask if they could run a COVID clinic as well as community outreach in one of our local community businesses parking lot. And they came to me and asked me, like, if we go and do this, will we get harassed by the city or by law enforcement? And I said, no, you won't. I'll guarantee it. We won't screw with you. So I told my deputies, I was like, just leave these folks alone. They're just out here. And I was like, you got other priorities as it is. So just focus on your other priorities and we'll take care of it. And I'll go down there and just make sure everything's kind of above board. And it turned out to be a great event. They got a large community, and when I talked to the organizers, their fear was that they were going to set up this community, and then the law enforcement, since we contracted out to our deputies, sheriff's deputy at the county level, they would come in with ICE and or other organizations to do an immigration sting. And they took me at my word, and we kept our word as the city, and my deputies actually came out there and introduced themselves and said, hey, we understand your fear and concerns, and we're here to help. We're not trying to make it worse for you. So if you need anything, if anything in the community is going poorly and you contact us, contact the manager. We'll work with you and we'll work with your community to help you out. And it was a very successful draw. And they came back to us and said, if we do this again, we'd like to make sure that we can do this again in your community. And we said, of course. So that, I think that helped. And that's basically my limited experience in our community. So just making sure information and data is available to the community in the languages that they can receive. You may not be able to get all the languages, but if you get the big ones, maybe that will help and point people in the right directions. And then training the leadership and the role they can play. My last part of that question, it's kind of what I did with our deputies, and just say, listen, you got other priorities. There's things you can do. You folks can, they can do this without them. And then when the deputies did arrive, and it was their suggestion, I should have mentioned that it was their suggestion, like, why don't we just come out and introduce ourselves? And I was like, okay. So I went out first, and then that. So it was also empowering, and the training there wasn't so much training as much as it was empowering the leadership, the department heads, all of you to think in that mindset, to act appropriately, and to do take those actions that would best lead by that example, and show the community that we are engaged and we do care about the inclusion of everyone in the community. I guess my last thing is training the leadership. I mean, technically you could bring in somebody to do it all day training, bring us all in this room, and then go through all the PowerPoint slides and have those discussions. That if that's something that has not been done in this community in a long time, or for this city staff, that may be something we should do just to get everyone on the same foundation, same board. So we could do that. That's an option. And that's a training that can be undertaken fairly simply. But on a day-to-day basis, is for me at least, it'd be just leading by example to ensure that if there's an inappropriate joke or comment, that somebody speaks up about it. And if it's me, or if I'm that person in the room, then I'm the one speaking up on behalf of other individuals, that we show respect to everybody, regardless of who they are and what their status is in the community, and make sure that everyone that comes through the door of City Hall is welcomed and felt included in the process. So, and that's incumbent upon me as a leader to set that example. So I think those are a couple other ones there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I got the long one.
Yes, ma'am.
The city of Helena has had an objectively high number of new city managers and interim city managers in the last 5 years. As a result, staff may be feeling uncertain about another change to the city manager position. What would you do if chosen to allay those concerns internally? And what experience do you have in helping staff maneuver new leadership and the inevitable discomfort it creates in the team?
There's a lot in that question and questions. So I can understand your concerns, your frustration, your fears about having more churn and more individuals, new faces, new leadership styles coming into the office. And you as a city and your staff and your commissioners, represented over here by Commissioner Logan and the mayor, you do have the opportunity of hiring and promoting up your interim to the permanent position. I mean, that if you want a simple solution to this process, that would be the option, is to hire the guy that's already your interim. If you're willing to take the risk and take the chance of bringing in someone from the outside, and that's one of the other two gentlemen, myself or Mr. Shashank, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, then the best I can recommend is that I will listen to you. I will talk to you. I will hear your concerns. I will, to the best of my ability, work with you and for you to advocate on your behalf and to ensure that you're being heard and being empowered. And he's already heard me say this once before, so kind of redundant to her, but what I mentioned in the other interview was that I will ask a lot of questions of you. And it's not because I want to challenge you or question your abilities or your knowledge or what you're doing or how you're doing it. It's more so I can learn quickly what the city needs and what it requires, so I can best advocate for you to other departments, to the community at large, and to the commissioners and mayor as to what you need going forward. So if I come into your office one day and it's like, or we need to meet, or we need to sit down, or tell me about human relations, or tell me about transportation systems and what we're doing, it's not because I'm coming in there going, yeah, you're doing it wrong. It's more of, teach me, tell me what I need to know so I can best work for you as the leader in this of this organization. So, and then I can go forward and then advocate on your behalf for the budget requirements that you need, or I'm sorry, Director LP, I'm picking on you a little bit on the transportation service, that hey, you maybe need a rate increase, or you need to change your bus service or something, or if in facilities, you need new boiler systems we talked a little bit about yesterday, new boilers and new infrastructure to keep the buildings in insulation. So these are things we got to advocate for with the council with the commission for future funding requirements. So those are the questions I'm going to ask. But overall, it's just that I'll be here. I'll listen to you. If you have concerns, my door will be open. You can come in and ask me questions and vent, and know it's done in confidence and that I will have your back. The last thing I would say on that is, and kind of gets to the fourth question. So I'm not skipping ahead, but it kind of gets to that one, is making sure that you know that you're the experts, you're doing your jobs, you're doing it well. The city is obviously working pretty well. Everybody I've talked to in the coffee shops and at breakfast, they like Helena, they like living here, they think the city's doing pretty well. So obviously you're doing good work, and it's just empowering you and enabling you to continue to do all that good work. So that's something else I would try and do as my leadership style, and ensure that you guys allay some of those fears that things are going to change. I am from my military time, I've worked with a lot of commanders, colonels, generals that came in. They're like, I got to get my next rank, I got to get my next promotion, I need my next star. So I got to show I did something. So I'm going to change everything, and we're going to do all things differently. And you over there, you're now going to sit on this side, and you're going to sit on this side. And I hated that. Absolutely hated it. It just ruined combat effectiveness. And it's something I just adamantly opposed. So for me, at least coming in here, I don't plan on changing anything the first 30, 60 days, unless it's absolutely critical to continuing improving city services. God forbid we have a situation, but like in East Palestine, we have a huge train wreck, and I got to make decisions and along with you, because we got to figure out a crisis. If we don't have one of those, I don't intend to make a lot of changes off the bat. I just want to listen and learn, figure out how things are working, so I can make informed decisions at a later date. And that should also help you realize that I'm not here just coming in to swing a hammer because I can. So hopefully that answers some of your questions and may assuage your fears.
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Sure.
So you've been at Amity, right?
Yes,
For what, 4 years or so?
3 years and 8 months.
What changes have you made there since you've been there as the chief administrator?
Well, I'll answer it this way. What changes have I received since I've been there? I have gone through, and the commissioners have heard this already. So I keep mentioning that it's a way, consistency through my answers. I'm not changing my story, but commissioners heard this. I've already gone through 4 mayors in 2.25 years. My current mayor went from 0 to hero in about 6 months. From that, I meant she was just a community member who wanted to get involved, and she went from running a write-in campaign for councilor to becoming the councilor, to becoming the council president, to becoming the pro tem mayor, to becoming the mayor in about 6.5, 7 months. And she's just crushing it. She's doing a great job. So I've had to deal with that change. My entire city council's changed over at least once since I've been hired, and many of those chairs have already changed over twice. So I've had to deal with that churn on the commission, on the council side. And then internally, within the first year of my job, I had my head librarian resigned on me because she thought I wasn't doing enough to support the library and her requirements in the library. And I went in and looked at her data and realized that she was inflating her needs in her data. Not that she didn't have requirements, but she was changing her data to make it look better. And when we had that discussion, she didn't like that. She didn't like the answer I gave her. And shortly thereafter, she resigned. So I had to deal with, I promoted up my assistant librarian to the head librarian position. And we're now underway with a community development block grant application to get the library improved. So with her engagement and involvement, we've sorted out the data. We figured out our correct needs, and we're moving forward to hopefully get $1.5 million for that project. And then I also mentioned to the commission that I had a public works superintendent show up one morning and drop his 2-week notice on me and just said, I got another job in another city down the road, and I'm given 2 weeks. And that took us a couple months to sort out. And I'm proud to say that in the last 2 weeks, we've hired a new city public works superintendent. So I feel very good about that. But also to get back to the previous question and some of the other your follow-up, I brought in my city staff and my public works team to be an active and engaged part in the interview process. You have probably a very large public works department. I got 3 guys. So when my public works superintendent left, I was down 33% of my force. I had 2 guys left. So I told those 2 individuals, I was like, listen, you guys are going to be a part of the interview process. I want one of you in the interview room. I want one of you working on the side, and let's make sure that this you're engaged. And I said, if either of you look at this public works superintendent and go, or this candidate, and basically say, I'm not going to hire him, even though I can override your decision, I can shove him down your throat just to fill the gap. I'm not going to do that. And I think they appreciate that I wasn't just going to, that I was empowering them to be a part of the process, hearing their concerns and getting their voice heard. And then we moved out smartly to get a hiring process. I even had them draft the majority of the questions. I didn't mention this earlier, but I did have them draft the majority of the questions that we asked the new public works superintendent. So I told them, I was like, I don't know what to ask this guy. What do you need? And they're like, well, we need this, this, and this. I'm like, well, write them up as questions and I'll polish them and then we present them. And that's how we did the interview. So they got the answers to the answers to the questions they wanted, and we moved forward. So that, in that sense, I think answers how I've dealt with some of the churn and changeover. I've been the continuity for mayor and council. I've tried to provide continuity, stability, and work with my team to fill up holes and gaps and problems within our staff. And I think we've done a pretty good job overall. I have to say I have a very small but mighty team, and they're rocking it. So I'm very happy with them. But I think it's because they feel empowered to step up for the city. Although you can call them and talk to them, they'll be like, so it's just my perspective.
Could you explain your experience managing city infrastructure and what you consider the roles and responsibilities of the city are?
Yeah, so for the city of Amity, our public works department runs our infrastructure. Infrastructure varies to a lot of different folks. For us, it's water, sewer, streets, public parks. That's basically our infrastructure. Streets include sidewalks, curb, gutters, and storm runoff. So we do a lot of most of our work in that area, and those are the responsibilities of the city. I know in larger communities that streets and infrastructure also includes transportation. In some cities, it includes power generation and delivery. My community is small enough that we don't have a lot of those services, or we contract out those services. But it's important to know the city's roles and responsibilities. So when I showed up, my mayor told me the first thing was, your responsibility is to fix my water infrastructure. He said, we have a USDA project that's been many years in process. It's been stuck for a couple of years. You got to figure it out. And that's your number one process and priority, is to fix my water system. Took me 2.5-ish years to untie the Gordian knot that was our water project, and sort out the funding, sort out the requirements, get the environmental assessments taken care of, work with all the governmental agencies. For us, at least, it was USDA, Community Development Block Grant, Housing and Urban Development, Union Pacific Railroad, Oregon Department of Transportation, Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, and 2 tribal nations that were also, as well as private landowners and farmers. We had to deal with all of those and sorting all those things out. A lot of communication, a lot of phone calls, a lot of work in there. So to get to your question, a lot of the roles and responsibility of the city is to bring all the different stakeholders to the table and ensure there's open and honest and transparent dialogue. And then for the city administrator, city manager position, it's providing a neutral, honest broker position to that point, and making sure that all the voices are heard, and that the decisions that are made may not appease everybody, and not everyone will get what they want. But the city's role and responsibility is to provide and protect the services of the city, and provide those services to the community in its best interest. And by that I mean, it may not, there may be a desire for us to lay 20 miles of pipe for water and sewer out to a potential development that's going to be a large manufacturing firm or something here in Helena. And that might be great and all, but if it's going to break our budget, or it's going to take us too much time, effort, or resources to do it, or it's going to cripple something else that the city needs to do, then we need to act in an interest that will protect the city and ensure that the services we provide to our community members inside city limits are the best that we have. And then if we can't, a lot of times it may require partnering with other regional entities. Here it could be with the county or East Helena and working with them on some of the requirements, since you're again picking on you, sorry. Transportation, maybe instead of the city of Helena alone doing transportation, maybe the city of Helena is the leader of a regional transportation plan. So we work with the county and East Helena to deliver transportation needs and public transportation to the community and do so in a smart and effective manner. So those are all the things I would see as managing. The second part of your question was explain and experience managing. I think I've explained a little bit of it. We've dealt with road paving projects. We've gotten, well, at least in Oregon, they're called small city allotment grants. They're up to about $250,000 that can be put to street and road paving projects. We've, over the course of 3 years, we've received one grant per year for those. So we put those to paving projects between our middle school and our high school to provide a clean, safe, and efficient walking and driving path for people trying to get from our middle school to our high school and back, because right now they're walking in the middle of the street or in our drainage ditches, which is kind of interesting. And there's no sidewalk and no curb there. And when people park, oftentimes there's very little room to get vehicles through. So we've been working very hard to try and fix that. So that's an experience I've had, as well as just making sure we can get the road paving and safe streets for our community. Additionally, working with my mayor and as far as infrastructure, at least for the city of Amity, working with my mayor and Oregon Department of Transportation, we were able, let me step aside for a second. Our main street in town is an ODOT highway, it's a state highway. So unlike here, where it's a city street, it's a state highway runs through our city street, but we've had a lot of issues with near hits of pedestrians. So my mayor and I worked with ODOT and within 9 months, we have doing a traffic survey and working with and getting the data, we were able to lower the speed limits along the state highway inside city limits by 5 miles an hour, which doesn't seem like much, but that was a significant drop. And now they're seeing the metrics of near hits and speeding and all this other stuff. They're all dropping and our safety's improving. But that was a concerted effort to improve our infrastructure. So I hope that answers the question. I'm open to follow-ups.
Yeah, I have a couple follow-ups on
Yes, sir.
there. For one, what's your experience with dealing with regulations such as wastewater discharge permits or water rights, achieving them? What's your experience with them?
Most of the water permitting and water rights we have, especially for the water infrastructure project that we're undertaking, we're already established before I arrived. So I freely admit I did not have a lot of experience with those. What I have dealt with a lot with was ensuring those permits stay current and are renewed on time, and making sure that the appropriate authorities are aware of when we're using those permits. So a lot of phone calls to DEQ, Oregon Health Authority, the state agencies at the Water Resource Council in Oregon. I think it actually has technically a different name, but that's what it is. Working with them to ensure that that they know what we're doing with our permits and why. So that's some of my experience. As far as the requirements, I don't particularly work on the treatment and et cetera, but I trust and empower my public works guys to do all the testing. But internally, we do BODS testing, we do TMDL. We also we did have to do a unauthorized discharge to ensure the integrity of our sewer lagoons during a heavy rainstorm over New Year's Eve of this last year into this year. So I was on the horn with DEQ, filling out the appropriate forms, filling out the appropriate documentation, working with DEQ to keep them advised of what was going on, to ensure that they knew we were doing this. And basically their response was, well, yeah, you and every other little city that's getting flooded right now, just keep us appraised. And I was like, all right, that's great. They said, we may come back and schwack you officially with either reprimands or fines, but for the time being, we understand to protect the integrity of your sewer system, you need to discharge. And I'm like, yeah, we do. So my public works team was really, really good about keeping me informed, so then I could keep the state informed, and that worked really well. So I'm also aware of the testing that we do for our system. We use as mentioned, a sewer lagoon system, some chlorination and some other chemical disinfectants for the sewage before we discharge it into the river. So does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
that's good. And then the other one that we have, so we have a lot of development in Montana, a lot of people coming in, and then the biggest thing that we're having right now, both city and statewide, is housing, getting affordable housing or workforce housing, whatever you want to call it. What is your experience with working with developers, with installing infrastructure, responsibilities, and along those lines?
So this gets to one of the questions and comments I have with both HCC and with the commissioners is I understand the need for housing, and there's ways you can do and bring in housing development, and oftentimes that will work with your city planning department and your public works team evaluating and assessing all the development proposals. I would have to learn how your process works here. That's why I would ask a lot of questions. But in Amity, what we do is the developers will come to us and present a pre-application meeting where they sit down with all the stakeholders, as me as city administration, our city planner, our city engineer, our public works team, and typically it's fire, our fire chief, and I say typically because sometimes it's depending on what the modification is, it's maybe more law enforcement, our county sheriffs or something. But we'll bring them into the table and they explain what their project is and what's going on, and then we work with them through. All right, did you consider this part of our development code? Did you consider this opportunity? Did you think about this? Or, this is a 2-inch main. Are you willing to make this a 4-inch main? And they're like, well, no, we're not. Well, then you can't build because our requirement for X number of toilets is it has to have a 4-inch main. If you can't do a 4-inch main, then this is a project we can't do. What we found is that having these pre-application meetings helps the developer either go back to the drawing board and fix these things, or stops the project cold before they invest a lot of time, resources, and money into the project, only to go before our planning commission, and have them basically turn it down because it doesn't meet standards. So again, it's a lot of meetings and conversations and having that pre-app and getting everyone in there to express their concerns about the proposal to ensure it meets the needs of the city, and then express what those needs are. So that works quite well for Amity. May or not work here. Maybe you already do it. If great, we can keep that going. As far as building the housing, and I mentioned this to commissioners, was there may be programs out there you could look into that would encourage them to build housing in certain aspects. When I was an intern, and to answer your question, get to the point, is when I was an intern in the city of Eugene, they had I was evaluating a project called a multi-unit property tax exemption. What that allowed was for a developer to come into an area defined by the city, basically the downtown core, that if they built an infill project that was housing related or mixed use housing related enterprise, that if they included a certain number of below market rate housing, we called it workforce housing, or at least the city did, that they would get a tax exemption going forward for X number of years to help them pencil out the project to put it in place. And it seemed to work pretty well. There were a couple of projects that were infill projects and were MUPT projects that were very successful in bringing in lower income workforce level housing, below market rate housing that were successful. So that could be a project that could be established here along with the site design surveys, et cetera, to help encourage developers to use vacant lots or undeveloped land or lesser valued land and do something with it to bring in development, new business, as well as potentially new housing that will help decrease your housing woes for certain individuals. And potentially being somebody that's going to move into this community, I realize I'm part of the problem, or could be. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Thank you. I have that last question. How do you describe your management style and ability to motivate the professional staff?
Well, as I mentioned before, again to the commissioners, it's constantly evolving. I won't use the same analogy I use with the commissioners, but the leadership style that I had in the military when it was and the chief may understand this a little bit from being in the police department, of a very command directed style. I say something, you go do it. I understand doesn't work anymore in the civilian sector. So I've had to constantly evolve my leadership style. And it will can change over the course of time that I'm in this community and working for Helena too, because you can never get stagnant as a leader. There's always new things you can do and try and learn, and learning is a big part of it. But what I see my role is to empower the staff to make decisions and to ask a lot of questions of you, but then also have your back when you make decisions. And as long as it's not negligent or incompetence or malfeasance of some type, it's back your play. If you make a decision, if it's done in the best interest of the community, it may be the wrong decision, but I got your back, we'll fix it. And then also realizing that there's except for those things that are, criminal or incompetence or negligence or something, or malfeasance or intentional, most mistakes they don't need to be addressed with reprimands and paperwork or whatever. They can actually be learning experiences and opportunities to engage and learn valuable lessons to move forward with. So I see my role now more as a coach to help define left-right limits, define the size of the sandbox, and empower you to make those decisions, knowing that I'm going to back your play when you make a decision or something. And realize too that, as I mentioned earlier about asking a lot of questions, know that if I'm supposed to advocate on your behalf to the community and to the commissioners and to the mayor, I need to know what you're doing, to ask a lot of questions and get the answers from all of you, and then be able to best advocate for your needs. And then realizing too that you're the experts. I don't know a lot about facilities or transportation systems, but I'll rely on you to give me the correct advice and counsel to make that happen and move forward in a smart and intelligent way so we can best help the city go forward. At the end of the day, every decision has to be, as my mayor told me when I took the job, he's like, every decision you make as a city administrator and I do as the mayor is, how does this make the city get better, and how do we move forward as a city with this decision? If it helps the city move forward, it's a good decision. If it doesn't help the city move forward, or you're questioning it, probably don't want to make that decision. And that seems to be a pretty good credence. So that's part of my leadership style now, is always think about, like, we do this, will this make the city better over time? Will we be able to continue to provide quality service to the community and meet the needs of the community as a city government? And in most cases, the answer is yes. Getting back to my previous answer as well, I don't intend to make a lot of changes initially, but over time, with your help and assistance, if there's things that need to be fixed, we got to fix them. So it's sitting down with you guys and breaking down the stovepipes and this is my little domain, and this is, I only do this, and I don't want to talk to anyone else. It's and that could be me as well. Like, I'm the city minister, I don't need to do this. It's breaking down those walls and going, no, you need to learn this, or this would help, or this will improve the quality of the city. And yes, there may be some turbulence initially as we figure this out together, but over time, it's going to make everything better. One of the things the commission asked me about, and Danielson, you're probably aware of this, is improving the city's financial accounting systems, computers or something. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly, responsible for the project.
So then it'd be working with you to ensure that process comes to a logical conclusion in the near future, and then realizing, okay, for the rest of you, there may be some hiccups in finance. We're going to have to figure some things out. This new system may have some quirks that you're not going to appreciate, but we'll talk to each other. We'll figure it out. It's not like, well, finance is screwing us up because I can't get what I want anymore. No, this is a new system. It's a new process. Let's figure it out together. We'll all learn. We'll make the city better going forward, and just working in that process. So that's kind of how I see my leadership. I also asked the question. That's how I see my leadership style working. It's very collaborative. It's very empowering, and it's ensuring that you know what limits you have moving forward. And then me asking questions, not in a micromanaging way, but more of asking questions so I can get educated to best help advocate on your behalf. I think that answered it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, well, that concludes kind of our structured interview questions. Before we wrap up, I just wondered if any of the leaders had any follow-up questions, any of the topics we addressed.
I do have a follow-up,
Yes, ma'am.
and that is, why are you considering the city of Helena, and why are you considering this now?
I'm going to ignore your question and drink a lot of water while you think.
Sorry, please.
No, why now and why Helena? Well, I'm sure you're aware, because it was in my bio, that I have already tendered a resignation from the city of Amity. That decision was made independent of any job offers or potential career futures. It was a personal decision. I will let you know, and I've already mentioned it to the representatives here, that I'm going out at the top of my game. I'm going out on my own terms. I'm going out on a personal reason that's known to me alone. I don't intend to share it. But my mayor and council did not want to see me leave. They don't want me to go, and they would like, and they're kind of on edge about bringing in somebody new into the organization. All that said, so why now? Because will soon be unemployed. It's a good opportunity. I mean, to be completely blunt about it. But the timing of this just is coincidental. But why did I actually apply? Because I saw what Helena had to offer in the brochure. I have one of my best friends in my entire life is a fellow Air Force officer who's now working for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I mentioned him a little bit in the passing. He was the guy who asked me about, I'm looking at the chief because we had this conversation a little bit. He was the guy who asked me if, I was here, if I should go say hi to Governor Costner. So led to a really interesting conversation. But he was pulling my legs. He just wanted to see, he's like, yeah, I'm sure they'll appreciate that question. I'm like, yeah, they did. But he's always expressed a love for Montana, and he grew up here. He's born and raised here, served in the military, and he'd love to come back here when he gets out of the bureau. And he's been encouraging me for years to look at jobs in Helena. I'm sorry, in Montana. So when Helena opened, it was an opportunity to come up here. Despite your Arctic blast, it's a which I think is good because that will help weed out all of us if we're not willing to put up with this temperature. And I'm doing good so far. But it's a beautiful city. It has a lot to offer. It's got a lot of charm, and in that sense, it seemed like a good natural fit to come up here. Quality of the people that you put on a great presentation and show. The city itself has been warm and welcoming despite the temperature. And it just seems like an awesome opportunity. So that I think answers the why now. I mean, it just happens to coincide with my already made decision to depart Amity, but the reason for the city is this is just an excellent opportunity. And for me, at least personally, the other thing I will add is, yes, I'm in a very small town, and I'm sure that's a strike against me on some of your scoreboards because the other gentleman has years in big cities, and then your current interim who's also applying, he's been here, he knows the city, and here comes this guy out of Oregon with a community of about 2,000, a little under 2,000 people. Like, okay, what does he know? But I think I've survived well through COVID, the economic downturns, 4 mayors, a complete change of our council, all the stuff I mentioned, the issues we've dealt with. We've grown businesses. We've improved our city surveys and our feedback. We've improved the quality, the overall value and opinion of the city slowly but surely. We've gotten better every year. I think the city community appreciates what I've accomplished. So for me, all that said, this is an opportunity to try and bring it to a different level, to up my game, to provide services on a much bigger community and get bigger challenges and bigger rewards and bigger opportunities and do more on a bigger scale. And to work with a team like this that has all this opportunity and potential and talent and skills it's going to be a really good fit. I think, it'll be a good opportunity to raise up the entire community. So I look forward to the challenge and the opportunity.
Great. All right. Well, thanks everybody for your time, for the great questions. And Mike, thank you so much.
Yep.
For your time coming out. It's such a pleasure to have you out. Appreciate your participation.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you. You have the team that put all this together. I just want to say that you've done a remarkable job. It's been, despite the weather. Danny, thank you. I know it was you and Alex, and you were there as well. Director McMahon, I know there were a lot of you, but it was a well-run show. Thank you for the drives, the pickups, for not letting me do a tuck and roll out in the forest somewhere along the way.
Just see if you can make it back.
Yeah. We talked about it in the hallway here. He's like, well, we could have just, hey, go out and look at that. That's kind of cool.
That's the right candidate.
Yeah. He didn't make it back, so obviously he wasn't good enough. You've done a remarkable job. It was a great opportunity. So thank you very much. I've been very honored, even if I don't get the position. I think very highly of all of you in this city. It's been a wonderful about 72 hours. So thank you. Thank you very much. With that, I will take my water and get out of your way.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet all of you. Good day. You mean like the store closed behind me, so.
Yeah.